Some people have not actually seen the DM32, so I try and just give a quick overview. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the actual details or what the features do, but it actually did follow a lot of the inherent stuff that you may be used to with Retrotec manometers, tested any pressure, keeps your settings. All those kind of things make your testing procedures much more efficient. Every time I opened the gauge, it stayed exactly what I had from the previous time. And the one thing that is a great feature of the new DM32 Wi-Fi gauge is it has a calibration cycle of every 5 years. So that means you do not have to have any calibration or send it back for a 5-year cycle. It does have a touch screen. Almost anything on the screen is actually able to be interacted with from any of the icons you see there, from channel A or to hold or channel B. Changes the results. Results we used to refer to as mode, or if you have the other gauges, it was always a mode. We realized that it actually was the results that you're trying to get, so we changed that. And we also have free updates. So if you've not seen or touched the gauge, I highly encourage you to come to one of the shows or something we're doing, because it's a phenomenal device. And I do have some live footage today to show you how it is in terms of the screen. Retrotec has revamped their webpage, and every time I bring this up, people can go there, and they're always totally amazed by the new features and the design and intuitiveness of the website. It kind of goes along with the gauge. If you want to download any of the software that we'll talk about today, you can go directly to the retrotec.com, and right in the middle is a little section, and it will give you direct links to download the software. Also, we do not have webinars coming up, but this is where you can go for the webinars for next year. Later I'll be trying to get some information as to what you might be looking for training for next year. I brought this slide up because I thought it was a good way to go through where a lot of stuff we're trying to do today came from. And in 1876, Dr. Watson Graham Bell stumbled with Dr. Watson on the phone, and from then on our lives and a lot of industry has changed. And so it kind of just puts things in perspective as to how long ago that happened. And then I do a kind of a question to see who can actually answer in the question there is who knows when this Apple, who really kind of reinvented the smartphone or created the smartphone concept, or who knows when the first smartphone was released from Apple. So if you've got an answer, you're welcome to throw into the questions, and we'll see who actually has an idea of how long it's been out. I try to put things in perspective for just a few minutes here. The image I have up in front of you is the entire waves that are actually go from audible to the radio spectrum to infrared, ultraviolet, to cosmic rays. So these are all the different things that either we use every day in our lives or are trying to kill us or we listen to. And notice that visible is a tiny little sliver in this a series of radiation waves that kind of go through there. The radio spectrum I bring up because this is the area that we do most of our living in, or most of our communications in, and receive our information. Those big blue chunks, those are how we actually watch television and broadcasting televisions, and all the other slivers are how the FCC has divided up the information. We're focused on a little tiny area right here that's the Wi-Fi spectrum. And those are the gigahertz that actually is the focus for the Wi-Fi you basically have in your home. That actually doesn't really apply to what you do with your cell phone or what you may do on a campus or citywide. This is kind of focused on actually what you do with your gauges and your home network. All right, I also brought this slide up because it kind of gives an idea of where the world is in terms of Wi-Fi and how popular it is in other places. And I was kind of taken back by the top 10 countries, and I was stunned that you can see how many places have Wi-Fi hotspots and locations. In the Germany and Japan were much lower on the ranking there. And there's some cities that are really promoting this. From Philadelphia and San Francisco and New York, there's a lot of places where you can go. I didn't realize Philadelphia was such a hot topic, hotspot. And obviously the most places where you go to find this information or actually find this access. So I thought that was interesting to see that in Europe, it is shockingly less popular to go to places and find a hotspot or Wi-Fi location. I also try to put the perspective as to where this stuff is and what it's doing. These are smartphones that can actually take your temperature and read your blood pressure and your oxygen and a variety of stuff. Here's an inhaler that can actually send a Wi-Fi signal when it's being used and when it needs to be recharged. And if you have kids that are, high school or younger or even in college, the technology is just totally different from what we lived when we were in school. Nobody has books anymore. Everything is tablet-based or phone-based. My kids use their phone in their English class and all their other classes. So it's shocking the different mentality that the generation behind us has. There's a lot of stuff that we use all the time right now with the Wi-Fi, and from either a Nest or automation in your home or a variety of other stuff that monitors temperatures. So the entire industry is moving towards living smarter and working smarter. And Colin Ginge got that, and he really wanted to develop a gauge that was going to take us to a new generation of working simpler, smarter, and gathering the data that we really want and use, and finding ways to use it remotely. So I want to make sure we understand how the Wi-Fi concept works, and that is that you can create a direct connection with our gauge, the DM32. So I do not need anything else at the job site in order to do most of the Wi-Fi stuff we'll talk about today. So I can actually make the gauge under settings to create, and it will actually create a direct connection referred to as a hotspot or an AP access point. And again, I don't need a router or anything else that's required for that. So I can actually use my smart devices, phone, or tablets, or even my PC to connect directly to the actual gauge. And the other option, which actually, to be honest, gives you much more options, is to actually use or join an existing connection. This could be a router, it could be some kind of smart device that creates its own hotspot, or another network. And for people to do a lot of CAS testing or testing throughout the house, I do recommend that they also think about adding a router to their toolbox, because they're very inexpensive and will extend your range extensively. I can use the Create Wi-Fi Direct Connect in the gauge, and they'll go upstairs and down the hallways. If you want to have linear feet, it probably would be anywhere from 100 to 150. It depends on what the house is made of. But if I'm going to go 3 floors and try and get to the basement, you're going to be challenged by the Create or Direct connection. If you add a Wi-Fi with a router, then you have a huge amount of options that you can do. Or you can really go outside, you in your car, and probably control the devices. So the slide you have now is showing that I can actually use the software, Virtual Gauge. Again, you can download that. I'm sure you heard the audio. And I can have my screen. I can even have multiple gauges on one screen. So if you're a trainer, this is a phenomenal source. If you're doing duct leakage outside, I can open 2 versions and control 2 fans at one time from my PC on one screen. So here I have 4 gauges, but I could easily just have 2 and do leakage outside very simply, and know that I don't have to run around or listen with my ear as to whether or not the blower door is still at 25. And I can also share my screen with a variety of software that's out there, from Google Hangout to even the webinar type process we're using now. All those things have the ability to share your screen and even give control over that. And we also have the smart apps, which go with your smartphone or your tablet. And you do not need to have internet access to even really download them or even use them with the gauge. Everything we'll talk about is really a Wi-Fi network, and you don't need internet access. You just need to have a signal that communicates from the gauge to either your PC or the gauge to your smart device. So you can go to Android or Apple. Sometimes they have a search may be difficult. You can also go to Retrotec.com and get a direct link. So you can use your phone or tablet to control the devices and I'll also demonstrate that today also. We just had our first update for those of you that have a DM32 and may not have caught that there is a way to use your DM32 configurator. Again, it's free software. You can download it directly from the Retrotec.com website. And what it allows you to do is update the versions of the software that's in the gauge, and how the gauge works and how it interacts, and what are some of the features. So as you all know, as soon as you buy a phone or a computer, that 6 months later there's a better one out. So our goal wasn't to keep making you come back and buy a better gauge. It was that you could update your gauge, and it'll get smarter as the industry gets smarter. So for those of you that need more assistance on that, at the end I can actually talk you through it, but my goal is to let you know that whatever gauge you have for DM32, it's easy to update it and use that. The configurator also allows you to use Wi-Fi that have a security and need an actual password. That's one of the things it also does for you. And to me, one of the most exciting things that Retrotec has done is you can now have Coke and Pepsi in one location. No matter what fan you have and that you love, you can now actually add a new brain to your system. So the Retrotec DM32 will fully control your Retrotec fan you have now. You need an Ethernet port on that, or it'll control your Energy Conservatory fan as long as there is a little audio jack, 3.5 millimeter jack that's on your speed control. So in the screen here you can see the speed control. Many of the duct tester, duct blaster systems did not have this port on the side, and then we cannot actually do that. Nor could you do any kind of speed control yourself. You had to just use the control on the speed control itself. So if you do have a port on the side, then it comes with the speed control adapter, and the gauge will control it fully. And not just control it, but all of the features that you're used to with Retrotec will also be there, from automatically calculating air change per hour or CFM per 100 square feet. All of that is included. I want to go back to the kind of technology again and some of the stuff that's out there. So there are, most of the things that we're working with have Wi-Fi. There are refrigerators that have Wi-Fi. There's toothbrushes that use Bluetooth, which is a form of Wi-Fi. There's just so many things that we're doing now that have this inherent communication built in. Some of the new cameras out, I know FLIR does, has the ability to show what your screen is on a tablet or your phone, so that you can share your images with your clients and not bump heads over looking at the camera itself. And these are the same kind of concepts that Retrotec wanted to do with their new gauge. So I can actually use my phone or tablets or my PC to control that. So we had some brilliant designers, and they gave us a kind of an icon to demonstrate some of the stuff that actually you can do in the house, so that you can actually see how this actually applies for you. So I also have some live video images to show you how this actually works also. All right, so the most basic one is to just use your PC and control the gauge itself. All right. So when I break out of the PowerPoint here, you can see what that is, and I'm not going to do some other ways that you can use the Wi-Fi, and you can see that they'll kind of be combined in the same effort. But I describe it as, you know what, you can now just set your lower door up as you normally do, connect the gauge, leave it all by the door as you always have, and now you can take your PC, which most people now use a PC on the job site, go to the kitchen and run the blower door, see your settings, and complete it. So I don't really need to stand next to the blower door and try and talk over the loud fan to my clients. I can now kind of explain what's happening and control it remotely. And again, I'll reiterate, because this is one of the things I was out in California recently, and they found this to be one of the most exciting features. Some people think of it as kind of a gimmicky, but the ability to share your screen with another person is not that complicated, and they found it to be the most powerful QA feature that we had right now. And so we're going to try and develop a quick guide to help you go through using Google Hangout or some of the other free options to share your screen so that anybody else can see your test live, see what your settings are, see what your results are, and have the ability to actually even control that. Or if you have somebody who's new, I can determine that their test was accurate or set up correctly. So the person on the left here is a provider, and he's over at the beach, and his new rater was able to show him what his screen was, and the only thing you really need is both people need an internet access. So again, you don't need internet access to control the gauge, but you do need it to share your results if you want to share it live. And you can also do that with your phone. Your phone can provide a hotspot and internet access. All right, so here's one that we have where you can actually do the CAS test. Most people feel this, of all the things that's out there, this is incredibly exciting, that I can actually leave my manometer, leave the gauge down in the CAS, and I can start walking around the house and opening and closing doors or turning on fans and see where is the problem or which area is affecting my combustion appliance. So what I want to do is show you what I have set up for you live today. I think my background neutral. So I have some cameras that I have put into my around my house. So upstairs I have a my little duct tester with a gauge on top of it, and our little simulator that we have to do practice doing duct testing. And it looks like the case itself. So upstairs I have this this gauge. All right. I'm going to close the settings so I can just focus on the gauge itself. All right. So I'm downstairs in my office, and I have this upstairs. And if I turn it on, we'll see my dog come up there. I can change anything in this on the PC. So what you're seeing on your screen is actually the virtual gauge. At the top, it tells me the serial number of the gauge I have upstairs. All right. It also tells me the gauge and how it's connected. This is my router, which I know the numbers of. All right. Any of the stuff that's on here, I can actually directly access on my PC, or if I was upstairs, I can actually directly access those on the gauge itself. And so here's my gauge in the image. So what I can do is I could change the device if I needed to just by pressing on the image. All right, and it instantly takes you to the range. So if I need to change the range, it's all based on images. So I'm like, no, maybe I'm going to do a blower door. Again, it's all based on images. These are all the Retrotec fans show up on the same screen. On the next screen are the Energy Conservatory duct blaster and version 3 of their Medosch fan. It also has their exhaust flow meter and true flow flow meter as options. And there is actually a whole flow, which actually works well even as an exhaust flow meter. That's another webinar. So if I was going to do a blower door, I could select the blower door. I have to pick a range. Again, it wasn't really trying to dumb things down, but trying to reduce the accidental mistakes that we all make in the field from, range ABC, L34, or BD, DB, A1, A2, A3. Now I can actually just confirm I have an image. So clearly my images do not match, so I can go back and change the device. And I have a duct tester, and it's on the mid-range. And I can actually click on channel B here and select my results. I can select CFM per 100 square feet. If I was doing a blower door, I could do air changes per hour. I can select CFM or pascals for the if I was doing any kind of other pressure. And on the next page is a great list of EQLA or EFLA in square inches or square feet, and a variety of options that that we infrequently use, but if you do, they're built into the gauge. So if I do square feet per CFM per 100 square feet, that's actually a calculated result. and I do need to have an area that goes a part of this per 100 square feet. So I need to know what the area is of my house. And let's say it's actually a little larger. Let's just say it's 1,500 square feet. And I hit set. And now when I run the test, it'll calculate my CFM per 100 square feet based upon this, this number. All right, so I'm going to go to set pressure. All right, 25, set. Again, I'm down in my office, and I'm controlling this fan itself. So you can see the air coming out of the little tester I have. You maybe will notice the screen changed. I can jog up or down with the pascals. Right now, if I want to kind of do a multi-point test or get an idea of what's happening. At the bottom, my screen's telling me that it's seeking 25 pascals, and that's where the fan's trying to get to. And here's a great icon in reminding you whether or not you're using the add feature or not. So if I now tells me that add feature is on, and it's telling me that I'm seeking CFM per 100 square feet at 25 pascals. So if I was up in the attic, I can actually try to turn the duct tester on, check my my ducts, find some more leaks, and seal them up. So it's one way to kind of actually be remotely controlling some options that I have with the actual fan itself and the gauge. And I could be using the PC, or I can also be using my iPad or Android device. All right, so I'll hit stop. So you can see the image that I have upstairs. Usually it's actually in the other side of my office. But if I were to switch over and, although you know what device I have, but I could actually change this device to maybe you have a Minneapolis duct blaster, or you could run a blower door. You must pick a range. All right. So to eliminate confusion, I'm going to remove the image of what I actually have, just so you can just see some results. So when I now actually do set pressure 50 set, it's as though I'm doing a blower door test with the Minneapolis system. And clearly I don't want CFM. I actually would rather do air changes per hour. And I'm going to check my volume of the house. So my volume is 22,550, and it's actually more like 15,500. So now my air changes per hour is based upon the volume that I set. I confirm what fan I have, and I can still turn on or off the add feature. It doesn't reach 50 because of the system I have upstairs, so it's too large of an opening to do that, or not large of an opening. So now you get an idea of what you can do with a the gauge on the PC with any type of fan itself. I'm going to open the virtual gauge back up again. Again, you can download this from the website. And one of the features that it has on here is the ability to run a total simulation without any other gauge attached to it at all. So what I can do is I can say start gauge simulator. And it automatically comes up to our duct tester, and I'll close the settings. But what this allows me to do is download it and practice with the gauge, or use it in a classroom setting, or make sure people are familiar with the gauge itself. So I can change this to a different device. If I use the Retrotec 1000, I now can pick I'll have to pick a range. Let's say I'm on the B range. And I'll set my settings, my results up to be just CFM. So it's like CFM, I go back. And now when I hit set pressure, 5.0, because there is no speed control for the Retrotec fans, now I actually am practicing in my house or in the classroom with the virtual gauge, able to see the results. I can use the full features of the hold, which is on channel A. I can change the results to air changes per hour. And they can also change the any of the device. So in terms of training or practice, this is a great feature that allows me, gives me much more opportunities of stuff to do. Somebody asked about the fan speed. You have the ability to do set pressure, any pressure actually, with the Retrotec manometers or gauges, or you can actually do a set speed. And the speed is basically 100% is fan full on, or I can actually do 50%. You kind of can dial in what that means. So here's the one I just did. Indirectly, because I got the image and the gauge connected. So one of the other features I can do is also use the gauge remote app, which is the remoteless or the Android or Apple app. Right. So what I want to do is show you how that works or what that image is. So here's a video that I have, and what I'll do is eliminate what we need to do. One second, sorry for the delay. Okay, good. So what I want to show you is actually having a my Apple device here next to me. Right, so I have my iPad Mini. Right, and what I'm trying to show here is that I actually have the gauge that's in the garage over my combustion appliance zone connected. Right, and I'll bring that image back up 1 second here. So here's the series that I have. So what I can now do is roam around the house, right, and actually use the my iPad or Android device to actually see what the pressures are. And you can see here on the screen, I checked the baseline before I did it, and as I go around and open and close doors, I can actually find out what kind of issues I'm having per individual rooms. As you can see that the gauge is slowly updating, but what I was trying to do is simulate that I would actually have positive or negative pressures as I open or close different doors. So I could be anywhere in the house, again, checking exhaust fans, the door situation, trying to find out which ones are positive or which areas were kind of negative. So in terms of actually Wi-Fi, making your life a whole lot simpler is to be able to use a device like this, leave the gauge in the area I wanted to actually monitor, and get live results. So it's hard to see in the image itself that things are changing, but to confirm I can do set pressure 15 just to see something. All right. And you can actually see the gauge here in my video change to confirm that my live screen is actually reading the device I have set up in my combustion appliance zone. So if this was also any kind of remote fan, I could also be controlling it also. But this is a great application of being able to read the combustion appliance zone remotely. All right, I'll take those videos off for a second. So what I want to do is just kind of highlight how the virtual gauge works by itself. So what I have is I have a gauge next to me, all right? And what I want to do is bring up my virtual gauge and show how they actually are connected with the gauge right next to me. All right, so open up the settings, and I'm actually define gauges. The gauge that's sitting next to me by my hand here is actually the 004. So the goal is trying to show you that I could actually control the on the gauge itself, set pressure, 2, 5, set. And here's the image of the PC right next to me. Clear my screen. Everything wants to open up at once. So here I don't have it connected to a fan, so there's no way, I can't get results. But the purpose was to show you that I can actually control it at the gauge, or I can go over to the PC with my mouse and also control the gauge. So it's a great opportunity to do two-way control and use all the features that the gauge has, or the convenience of using my PC. Sorry for the sporadic, because it's a challenge to try and keep multiple windows happening when you're doing live videos. So thanks for your patience. One of the most exciting things that Retrotec has out now, and we're kind of revamping how this looks or what the interface is the ability to actually log the data that actually runs through the gauge itself. So I can actually open up their data logger. Again, it's also free online, and it works with the DM2, the older gauge, if you use a USB, and you can also use it for Wi-Fi with the DM32. And actually it will log all of the data based on whatever interval I determine with the program. It could be 1 second or 30 seconds or 60 seconds. So after I hit start logging, I go to the gauge and I run my test. When I'm done with my test, I come back and I'll do stop log, and it creates a Excel spreadsheet. Very common, easy to use, easy to share. I'll zoom in to make sure you guys see what this looks like. Here's a test I did earlier where I actually had a DM32 and a DM2, and it logged both of them at the same time. The DM32 was running a Minneapolis blower door, and the DM2 was running a 1000 Retrotec fan. It tells me what the range was set, so I can confirm what I had on my my fan when I ran the test. This in general helps eliminate when you're driving home if you remember to change the gauge after you chose to change the range on the fan. This actually tells me exactly what I had. It gives me also the pressures in channel A and B as the test ran. And whenever I had the results set up for it, whether it was CFM or air changes per hour or whatever the results were in the gauge. I also get that as an actual column itself. So for documenting your own work or for doing your own quality control and assessment, this is a great feature to have. If you're also working with a provider or QA person or even a utility group, this also is a great thing to actually confirm what they had. There are several code inspectors across the country now that actually accept this as a confirmation of the results and eliminates them having to go out to the job site anymore. One of the features that you can combine your Excel spreadsheet with is that as soon as it is saved, you can save it in a Dropbox or Google Drive or potentially iCloud. I don't know if iCloud actually works well with Excel. But SugarSync or Box, all of those allow a direct save, and all of them, to my understanding, I know Dropbox does, and Google Drive will confirm if the document had been altered. So if somebody went in and changed the document, you can now see versions of what that document was. So it's one way to confirm exactly what my results were, know that I've saved them in a secure location, and then I can share that or get that information. And earlier I prompted folks to see if they could recall when the new iPhone had come out and what kind of technology has actually happened in those last 7, 8 years. So then I kind of challenge you as to where are we headed and what's going on, or what are things that we now use as our watch or Google Glasses or a variety of other stuff is all coming out and headed our way. And I think of it as right now this is kind of like day one for the iPhone in our industry. The apps that I showed with you and shared with you, they're only the beginning. They only actually share the gauge. Where we think that this can go is to actually capture the data, capture a variety of information that you're doing at the job site, from what are the temperatures, or do geolocation and a variety of other stuff. So we think that this is actually going to revolutionize how we document what we do. Some of the other places or features where this actually will become available, or I think actually hit our market, is trying to communicate why realtors should get more involved in what we're doing, or even our industry. That when I'm done with a test, our goal is to try and figure out a way to geolocate your actual results and be able to share those with whoever you need to share them with as securely as possible. So the ability to actually confirm where they were, what time the test was, and control what results you wanted to share is really our goal of what's going to happen next. And we'll encourage anybody to give us feedback or input as to what it is they think would be valuable apps or information that either the gauge or the applications could help share with their industry or what their provider or what their utility is looking for. So we definitely feel this is actually where the industry is headed. We are also reaching out to any kind of trainers or trainer partnerships for those of you that are in that type of environment. So I just want to make sure I do a quick plug on that. Our goal is that you have the best and most up-to-date equipment, and our goal is to support the industry, including trainers. So a lot of folks have the Minneapolis equipment, and many trainers that are larger trainers are switching over to the DM32 because it'll work with any fan that they have, or any of the fans that their clients are walking in with or used to using. There are two options. Everything we talked about today with the DM32 Wi-Fi, and there's also a DM32 that's non-Wi-Fi. It depends on your needs or your application. Some people do large building testing. The Wi-Fi features aren't really applicable when you're going to go up 5 stories and want to have a blower door to pressurize the other half of the building. You're going to run an Ethernet cable anyway. So we want to make sure the industry has the same options, and we're able to choose the device that works best for them. All right, here's your Christmas bonus or your Christmas option if you're looking for a tax write-off or convince your better half or boss or somebody that you need to do this. This is the time to do this. And so right now there is an upgrade. The upgrade is not every day. It does not happen all the time. So there is one that happens in January, and you can upgrade your DM2 or DG700, and that includes a speed control adapter automatically. And you get a series of hoses and a variety of stuff to make your system work instantly. You can trade those in and upgrade to the DM32 Wi-Fi. In January, it's $950. If you decide to do it in December and pre-order it before the 31st, there's $100 off. So it's only $850 if you want to upgrade your existing gauge that you have now. So this is a phenomenal price and a phenomenal option. And the one reminder is that the DM32 only needs to be calibrated every 5 years. So if you really want to just price out the calibration that you may have over that time frame and savings, it could easily justify that kind of cost. The DM32 is available with the systems that are out right now, from the duct tester or the blow door, or the high-powered 3000 series with the duct blow door. I want to thank you all and have a safe and happy holidays. Please don't hesitate to give a call. You can also do training at Retrotec.com or sales. And I encourage you to register at the Retrotec.com as a user, so that also allows us to give you information about what kind of webinars directly fit you, or updates or other stuff that actually helps your marketing process, or you don't miss anything that we're doing live.